There is a profound and deeply instructive irony buried inside the modern story of Israeli air power, one that France, more than any other nation, should be forced to contemplate with great discomfort. Decades ago, Paris believed that by cutting off jet deliveries to Israel, it could permanently constrain what a small, embattled nation was capable of achieving in the skies. That decision did not weaken Israel. It ignited something far more consequential, a sovereign military-industrial determination that has culminated, in the present day, in an air force so uniquely modified, so operationally seasoned, and so technologically advanced that European defense establishments are now quietly studying Israeli upgrades with a mixture of professional admiration and genuine strategic unease. Israel has not merely kept pace with modern air power, it has redefined what a customized, combat-tested fifth-generation fighter force looks like in actual warfare, and France, the nation that once tried to ground Israel's ambitions, is now confronting the full weight of that historic miscalculation. After France made the strategic decision in the late 1960s to halt the delivery of Mirage fighter jets to Israel, a move driven by shifting political alignments in the Arab world and Paris's desire to protect its commercial and diplomatic interests across the Middle East, the Israeli Air Force found itself at a crossroads that would define its entire future trajectory for decades to come. Rather than accepting permanent dependence on foreign suppliers who could withdraw their support at any moment of political inconvenience, Israel chose a path that no analyst at the time believed a nation of its size could realistically pursue with any serious prospect of success. It chose sovereign aerospace development, complete self-reliance, and the construction of a defense industrial base that owed nothing to any foreign government's goodwill or continued cooperation. That foundational choice, born not out of ambition but out of abandonment, set in motion a defense philosophy that would eventually produce one of the most uniquely capable air forces in the history of modern warfare, the Israeli Kfir fighter, whose name translates meaningfully as young lion, was the first major testament to what Israel's defense establishment to accomplish when pushed to operate entirely on its own terms. And its development represented far more than an engineering achievement. It was a declaration of strategic independence that would shape Israeli military doctrine for every generation that followed. Entering service in 1975, the Kfir was built around an upgraded American engine and incorporated avionics that reflected Israel's rapidly growing confidence in its own technological community and defense industry. The aircraft performed admirably in combat, achieved verified aerial victories in Syrian airspace, and was eventually exported to Ecuador, Colombia, and Sri Lanka, while also being leased to the United States Navy and Marine Corps for use in adversary training programs, a remarkable and deeply symbolic validation of Israeli aerospace engineering on the world stage. When Israel eventually became the first nation in the Middle East to acquire the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II, designated the F-35I Adder, meaning mighty in Hebrew, it negotiated something that no other international partner in the entire global F-35 program had managed to secure: the explicit authorization from the United States government to extensively modify the aircraft's core systems and integrate indigenous Israeli avionics, electronic warfare suites, weapons, data links, and mission computers directly into the fighter's fundamental architecture. This arrangement was without precedent in the history of the program, and it reflected both the extraordinary depth of the American-Israeli defense relationship and Washington's recognition that Israeli battlefield expertise and technological innovation were themselves assets worth incorporating into the broader evolution of fifth-generation air power. No other nation on Earth flies an F-35 with this level of sovereign customization, and that distinction carries consequences that are now becoming impossible to ignore. While the F-35I Adder has commanded most of the international attention in recent months, Israel's simultaneous transformation of its F-16I Sufa fleet into a dedicated deep strike platform has proven equally significant and, in many respects, more immediately visible to the outside world and to defense communities across Europe. In early March 2026, the Israeli Air Force publicly released nighttime imagery showing an F-16I Sufa configured with 4 RAMPAGE standoff missiles loaded simultaneously onto a single aircraft, a configuration that shifted the jet entirely away from self-defense and toward the role of a pure precision strike platform capable of servicing multiple hardened targets in a single long-range sortie. The RAMPAGE is a high-speed weapon designed to engage heavily defended, fixed targets from distances that keep the launching aircraft safely outside the reach of modern surface-to-air missile systems, and loading 4 of them onto one fighter in one mission represents a genuinely new chapter in Israeli offensive airpower doctrine, perhaps the single most startling public revelation of Israel's F-35I capabilities came in February 2026, when Israel's ambassador to the United States confirmed what defense analysts had long suspected but never seen officially. Acknowledged that the Israeli Air Force had developed and operationally deployed custom fuel tanks for the F-35I adder that extend the aircraft's combat range without compromising its stealth signature, while simultaneously adding 4 externally mounted missiles to the aircraft's wing stations. The combination of these 2 modifications, range extension and expanded payload, transforms the F-35I from a conventional stealth strike aircraft into something genuinely without parallel in global aviation. A 5th-generation platform capable of conducting long-distance precision strikes against heavily defended targets deep inside adversary territory without relying on aerial refueling, while retaining sufficient stealth performance to evade the most advanced air defense systems currently deployed in the Middle Eastern theater. Beyond the visible modifications to fuel capacity and weapons loadouts, perhaps the most strategically consequential dimension of Israel's F-35I program lies in what cannot be photographed or easily quantified: the deep integration of Israeli-developed electronic warfare technologies into the aircraft's core mission systems. Israel's defense electronics industry, led most prominently by Elbit Systems, developed a tailored electronic warfare suite specifically calibrated to counter the Russian-manufactured surface-to-air missile systems that Iran, Syria, and other regional adversaries have deployed to defend their most sensitive military and nuclear infrastructure. This indigenous suite replaces and substantially enhances the standard electronic warfare package that other F-35 operators fly, and it is continuously updated based on real operational experience gained in actual combat. Not simulations gained in actual combat, not simulations, not theoretical modeling, but genuine flight hours in contested airspace against active threat systems, giving Israeli pilots and planners an adaptive, electronic warfare edge that no European Air Force currently possesses. All of these upgrades and modifications might remain matters of theoretical interest were it not for the fact that Israel has now tested every single one of them in actual large-scale combat operations against a sophisticated state adversary, operating layered air defenses. In February 2026, during the opening strikes of Operation Lion's Roar against Iran, the Israeli Air Force deployed approximately 200 fighter jets simultaneously, describing it as the largest strike sortie in its entire history, using the F-35I Adir, the F-16I Sufa, and the F-16I Sufa, and the F-15I Ram in coordinated packages that suppressed Iranian air defenses, neutralized radar installations, and struck hardened military and nuclear infrastructure across Iranian territory. The F-35I's stealth capabilities allowed Israeli jets to penetrate deep into Iranian airspace while evading the most advanced Russian-supplied air defense systems, validating years of classified development work under the harshest possible real-world conditions. Israel's military transformation is not confined exclusively to offensive strike capabilities. The defensive architecture that protects Israeli territory has undergone equally significant and carefully timed upgrades that have added another dimension of concern for European military planners studying the regional balance of power. In the period immediately preceding the outbreak of direct conflict with Iran, Israel's defense establishment quietly completed a series of tests demonstrating substantial improvements to the David Sling air defense system, a mid-tier interceptor platform designed to engage ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, fighter aircraft, and sophisticated drone systems across a wide range of engagement altitudes and threat profiles. The specific nature of those upgrades was deliberate, withheld from public disclosure, but officials described them as significant adaptations based directly on operational lessons absorbed since the outbreak of the October 7th conflict, meaning Israel is fielding an upgraded defense system continuously refined by the experience of actual sustained missile warfare. The reason France finds Israel's military upgrades so deeply unsettling goes beyond simple military competition or regional politics, and understanding that reason requires appreciating the broader strategic context in which European defense industries and air forces currently find themselves. France has invested enormously in the Rafale fighter as its primary export and domestic combat platform, yet the Rafale has not been tested in anything approaching the scale, intensity, or technological complexity of the combat environment that Israeli pilots have now navigated repeatedly against Iranian air defenses. Israel's F-35I modifications, its RAMPAGE-equipped F-16 strike packages, its continuously updated electronic warfare suites, and its combat-proven David Sling upgrades collectively represent an empirical body of knowledge about modern high-intensity warfare that no European air force has accumulated, and the gap between combat-tested Israeli innovation and theoretically capable European platforms is now widening in ways that are generating serious professional anxiety within European defense establishments. After decades of being told that a small nation surrounded by adversaries, subject to arms embargoes and perpetually operating under existential pressure, could not sustain a first-class military-industrial base, Israel has delivered a definitive and historically significant answer, not through declarations or political arguments, but through operational results that speak with an authority no statement can match. The French decision to cut off Israel's jets in the 1960s was intended to be a limitation. It became, instead, the founding motivation for the most combat-experienced, most uniquely modified, and most continuously innovative air force operating in any active theater of warfare on Earth today. France is not simply shocked by the missiles and the fighter jet upgrades. It is confronting the long-term consequence of a strategic miscalculation made more than half a century ago. One whose full implications are only now becoming entirely and uncomfortably clear.